This is my recap of My Five Wives, Season 1, Episode 2, Turkeys and Ticking Clocks. And that is the two storylines in this episode, Thanksgiving and babies. So we open up the episode with a new intro that is much better than last week's creepy intro. And they start talking about Thanksgiving and how Thanksgiving's coming up. And there's also a karate test. Where they're concerned about whether or not Brady will be able to go to and see his son Lake, which is the first child that they gave a name to. I'm not even bothering trying to learn most of the kids' names until we get introduced to them one at a time. But I figure I have 4 or 5 seasons until I need to even pretend to know their names. But Lake has his karate thing and he's hoping that Brady can come. Big spoiler, he's able to make it. He sneaks in just in time. And then they're setting up for Thanksgiving. So every year, Thanksgiving is at one person's house. This year it's Rosemary's. And Rhonda does all the shopping. She gets everyone's list, and then she goes to the store. And they all throw in money for Thanksgiving. And they have like 20 pies and 2 turkeys and trays of stuffing. And just what you would pretty much expect. I mean, Thanksgiving's always huge for any size family. So of course it's going to be even bigger for theirs. And so that's pretty much Thanksgiving. But the real storyline is this baby storyline. So the family has all pretty much decided at this point there would be no more babies. But Rhonda, for about 5 months, has been thinking about wanting another child and adopting. She really wants, her pregnancies have been very difficult, and she also wants to, kind of, to have a child that needs a home, bring it into her home. Now, both Noni and Rosemary feel that if Rhonda gets to have another child, they would like another child. There's definitely the indication that these women were raised through their own words, were raised that motherhood was a blessing, that's the whole purpose, that's their thing in life. I certainly think women have more than just that, but if that is something they feel in their heart and it's something that brings them joy, there's nothing to say that there's anything wrong with that. So there you go. So that's kind of what happened. The one thing they bring up at the beginning of the episode that has nothing to do with anything else is the difference between bigamy and cohabitation. So bigamy is when you have a legal marriage license with 2 people at the same time, and that's illegal in all 50 states. Now Utah specifically has additional wording for cohabitation, which is related to living with someone in a loving marriage type relationship. And that is specifically illegal in Utah, and that is what they prosecute people on in Utah. That's the reason why the Browns on the show Sister Wives had to leave Utah when they went public, and they were able to go to Nevada and no longer have an issue. As long as they don't legally try to say that he is married to more than one person, then it is fine. So they kind of bring that up, and they mention that when the Browns had to leave Utah, they filed a lawsuit against the state saying that was unconstitutional. So anyway, they bring that up at the beginning of the episode. Come back to that later. Now, we see kind of the family discussing the idea that if Rhonda gets to investigate adoption, then they would like to discuss it as well. And Rosemary basically says it wouldn't be fair if Rhonda could adopt and she couldn't have another child. I have to say I kind of agree. It seems like it's a family decision. Like either they're having more children or they're not. But it seems weird that he would say yes to one wife and no to another. And I think they could raise a lot of hurt feelings. So Noni does go and on her night talk to Brady about it, and he didn't really say yes or no. He didn't say yes and he didn't say no. He just sort of said he'd consider it or he'd be open to the possibility or something like that. We also discover that Robin and Rosemary are both in school in addition to Brady being in school. So I don't know what either of them are in school for, but I remember from the documentary, I think Rosemary's in school for music. I'm just going to kind of take that with a grain of salt. I'm not totally sure. They also do discuss, since we're talking about babies, birth control. So there was 2 things I learned about fundamentalists that I didn't know. I never learned on the Sister Wives with the Browns. Was that that at least Polly was raised to believe that you had to be polygamous in order to get to heaven. I don't know why that surprised me so much, but it did, because no one's ever mentioned that in all the other documentaries and stuff I've watched. The other thing is they do not believe in birth control. Also something the Browns never mentioned. They said they were raised, and the women were all embarrassed to talk about it. It was clear that they were using birth control, but they didn't want to say it on TV. And Brady's like, who cares? We left the church. It's not a big deal. And all the women were like, well, I just don't want to say yes or no. And he basically outed them, which I would have been pissed about, because it's not his business to tell. I mean, I know it's him and his wife's business, but it's still like her body and her family. So it just seemed weird that he was like, here, I'm going to tell tell the whole nation you're on birth control. Because I don't think I would announce that, period, regardless of a religious background. That's pretty private information that is for me only. And if someone else wants to share it, that's their business. But, it's mine, for me. One thing I did want to add is that I finally found out how long Rhonda and Brady have been married. Last episode, they didn't tell us. They told us everybody else, but they didn't tell us Rhonda. And I found out that they have been married almost exactly, as of this episode, almost exactly 10 years. And that was just important information to me, because I wanted to see how long this family unit of one husband and 5 wives has been together. And mostly because when I watch Sister Wives, which I'm making a lot of reference to this episode, I won't normally do that, but it just fits with this episode. On Sister Wives, halfway through the first season, he married a new wife, and they're still 4 or 5 years having these repercussions. The wives are still figuring things out, and it's causing, it's still causing problems, in my opinion. So I wanted to know, has she only been in the family for a few years, or what? Well, 10 years is they probably reached their equilibrium by now. That's just my opinion. Anyway, the reason why the Sister Wives showed up so much in this episode, in addition to other things, is that at the end of the episode, they get a text which states that the Browns won their lawsuit against the state, which struck down the wording that was in the law that was specifically related to cohabitation, which means that it has decriminalized spiritual polygamy, meaning that he is spiritually married to more than one woman, but only holds a marriage license with one. Or I guess none. I guess he could legally be married to none of them. But, so what they are doing is no longer criminal, which is awesome for them, because then they don't have to worry about having to move out of Utah. And that is my recap of My 5 Wives. I'll see you guys next week.